My Amazon guy, Halloween AMA for PPC. So my name is Marissa Linzey. I'm a brand director here at my Amazon guy, and this is my podcast. Every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern. I do not have a guest today, so I will be solo doloing it today. But that's okay. I do see that we have some questions and things of that nature. So really excited. I have my little ghosts in today. I don't know if you can see them, little ghosties. I have like orange makeup on today, and of course my Amazon guy sweatshirt. But that's neither here nor there. Let's get into it with some hellos. Happy Tuesday from Jeffrey. Happy Tuesday. Happy Halloween, guys. It's Halloween. It doesn't really feel like it because it's Tuesday, but it is Halloween. Hello, good day, Marissa. Hi, Karim. Okay, let's get into it. What is your methodology for when to use and when to adjust bid by placement? What metrics do you go by to tell you when to make increases and by what percentage? Good question, strong question to start out the day. So when to use bid by placement. So this is mostly going to be when we're trying to do new product launches, product promotions, or target really high performing keywords or keywords that are important to us, right? If you have one phrase that is, just really, really important to you and it's worth spending the extra money bid by placement, that would definitely be a time to use it. And again, like we have clients here at my Amazon guy who they don't care if the ACOS is 200%. They want top of search or whatever for a certain keyword, right? And then as far as when to adjust them, so this is kind of going to be based on ACOS, ROAS, most likely, but also just like what your competitors are doing too, right? If you are consistently, um, bidding for top of search and you're not getting it, that probably means that your competitors are, right? Like if you're searching for a keyword and you're not in the placement that you are bidding for extra, right? Chances are that you need to adjust that bid by placement. Similarly, if you are winning the placement all the time, and maybe the landscape gets less competitive, which I have yet to see that happen on Amazon, especially in Q4, but possible, right? Then maybe you could lower it down a little bit too, so you're not spending as much. So those are options there. Went through some metrics, and then as far as when to make increases and like what percentage, usually in 10% increments because that can get kind of crazy depending on what the initial bid is and what that looks like. So you want to be careful there. But I feel like you should also be willing to A/B test, your percentages and stuff like that a little bit and keep a close eye on it. It's not a one size fits all. Um, so that's my advice there. Hopefully that's helpful. Let me know. Bid by placement can be really, really helpful. If you have the budget to spare, for sure. Okay. Next question from Jaleel. How do up and down targeting and top of search modifiers differ from one another? For example, if I have one keyword and in a campaign put 100% top of search modifier and the other campaign I put just up and down modifier, how will they target differently if Amazon has the ability to bid up to 100% more for both strategies? That's a great question. So the ultimate differentiation here is that top of search is guaranteeing you to be at the very top of the page, right? Up and down doesn't come with that guarantee, right? So up and down actually adjusts your bids based on the likelihood of a keyword or product target performing well. But that likelihood is still based on Amazon's algorithm and what Amazon thinks will do well. So again, it's really you're leaving it up to the algorithm to decide. Where at top of search, you are deciding, and you have a lot more power and control over where you're showing up. So we can go into the rest of your question. So I launched a single keyword campaign with up and down targeting strategy to win that keyword. 3 to 5 months down the line, I can turn off up and down and put a 95% top of search instead in order to incrementally reduce cost per click without losing top placement immediately. And then continue with that strategy, or would the bidding be totally different? And would I see an immediate negative impact? So I argue that you probably wouldn't lose top placement, but I see what you're saying here, and I think it would also depend on timing, right? So up and down also takes into consideration, you know, different consumer behavior at different points of the day, right? So probably depending on what you're selling to, might be a lot higher after people get home from work, might be really low while people are at work, in the office, etc. It just kind of depends for that keyword. Um, I would say here, about losing top placement and continue that strategy. I think it would react differently, but it would kind of achieve your same goal. Like that's another way to do it. But again, it's just not guaranteed with up and down as much as it would be with top of search. So is it safe to assume that for the most part, up and down is giving you top of search placement, especially when you see a higher than normal cost per click? Not always safe to assume that. I wouldn't assume that. I think that's why top of search, that placement exists in the first place. And, I think it depends. So, especially when you see a higher than normal cost per click, I don't really think that that's an indicator. Like, I get what you're saying, but I think if you're really trying to guarantee that placement, you should use the bid by placement, and not just rely on the algorithm to place you up and down, right? So if there's history on up and down, I want to say that the algorithm will recognize that, and that will probably work in your favor. But I don't necessarily know if that's, a foolproof method for achieving that. But I definitely think it's worth a shot if that's something you want to test out. So, okay, let's go to our next question. What strategy to use to achieve a 20% ACOS? I see in a later comment down below. Product is a fireplace, Italy, Spain, and Germany. Okay. So these are smaller European marketplaces. So their search volumes are going to be a little bit different than US, Canada, UK. Germany's sizable. It's the next largest after UK. I'd say this is probably a similar strategy kind of across the board, except you're going to be working with numbers that maybe are a little bit smaller than what you might be used to, in America and, UK, Canada, etc. You know, set up your campaigns, right? Segment them appropriately so you can keep track of them. Follow the suggested bids to start, but don't rely on them solely. So a lot of the time, what I see, and this is something that Matt and I talked about last week, is that sometimes you have thousands, right? Sometimes tens of thousands of impressions. I don't know that that will always happen in those marketplaces. Just their markets being what they are. But if you have tens of thousands of impressions, you don't need to be spending the suggested bid, right? That's just Amazon's projection, and Amazon can be wrong. I know that's not news to a lot of us, but Amazon can and is wrong a lot of the time. So, you can definitely bid under that and still get plenty of traction, and that's a really good way to keep your ACOS low. Really depends on your margin. So I'd be interested to know the price of a fireplace, depending on like, is it like electric? Is it like portable? Is it, what size is it? All going to kind of factor in. But I'm imagining probably somewhere in like the $60 range if I had to like guess. But definitely let me know. Um, but with higher price points, you can kind of afford higher bids as well. So that can work to your advantage. ACOS is really just it's just a percentage, right? It's just a ratio of what you're spending on ads to you know how many sales you're actually making, and what is each sale equating to, right? Like how much money are you actually making from one sale? If you're priced at $15, your ACOS is going to look a lot worse, than it would if you're in the $60 to $70 range at those same kind of like $1 to $2 bids. So definitely, ooh, product is €300. Okay, so you've got a lot of margin. So I'd say, um, don't pay more than you have to, right? Just because you have more margin doesn't necessarily mean that, um, you should bid crazy high. But with that said, you can sustain a lot more clicks before you should really be adjusting anything too drastically. So when I say that, what do I mean? Well, your average Amazon shopper is not going to see a 300 euro item and say, "Oh, okay, add to cart. I'm just going to go ahead and buy that. No biggie, no big deal." Um, a purchase like that sometimes takes a few times, a few interactions before it actually occurs, right? Whether that stays in their cart for a period of time or they revisit it and search a few times. um you know it's not necessarily, oh, one click, one purchase. It's not an impulse buy, right? So normally my threshold is anywhere from like 20 to 25 clicks, no purchases, to kind of suss out if a target is really worth it. Your threshold is going to be a lot higher. I would kind of stick to even like 30 to 50 as a kind of tolerance threshold, depending on what the bid is, right? If your bid is $5, obviously 50 clicks at $5, that is going to be a little bit painful. Um, but if you can keep those bids low and still get impressions, still get clicks, still get traction, um, you know, I think that's going to be a surefire way to keep your ACOS pretty low, especially if, these start selling really well for the holidays and stuff like that. So hopefully that's helpful. That's just kind of some general advice there. But it's all about margin, and your tacos should follow suit. Ideally, if you're getting, one advertising sale, you should be getting, an additional 2 or 3 organic sales for every ad sale. So ideally, right, with this type of product, it might be a little bit different. Okay. Ba-ba-ba. Audit listing issues we want in top 10 airbrush sets. I'm not sure what that means. I can do ASIN reviews though. I've got some time today. As a reminder, we do hard stop this podcast at 1. Usually to be respectful of guests. Today it's going to be so that I can go to some other calls and that kind of thing. Hard stop at 1, so get your questions in. If you want to elaborate on this one, definitely throw that in the chat. And then how to survive and maintain rank in products when price war starts in good selling product. Yes. So Q4, historically, right, cost per clicks go up. There's a lot more traffic. And it's maybe not consistent traffic, right? Because it's a lot of people buying for the holidays and then they kind of forget about Amazon for a little bit. Um, so as far as price wars, the only thing with this, right? Make sure you're not mistaking competitors as your competitors, like when they're not, right? When I say that, um, you know, if you're priced at $40 and a Chinese reseller or, seller in general, right, is priced at 10, $15, they are not your competition. Do not think that they are your competition. They are not. That you are not you are not their competition and vice versa, right? Um, what you need to do to survive and maintain rank in product, number one, you can't let off the gas as far as going after those keywords. You're going to have to sustain some higher cost per clicks. But we do see a lot of brands over the holidays raise their prices a little bit. And I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but especially with inventory shortages that kind of happen around this time of year, Amazon is starting to decrease capacity limits again, which is something that we saw last year as well. Um, you might have to be a little bit more selective about what you're selling, how much of it you're shipping into Amazon, things of that nature, right? So, number one, don't lift your foot off of the gas pedal, during this time or, to survive and maintain rank, right? You're also going to want to make sure that your sell through isn't affected. So with that said, you don't stock out of inventory, no hidden price suppressions, no yanks, policy violations, etc. That's kind of a given. And then, refresh your SEO every once in a while. So a nice little trick that we like to do here is we like to sprinkle in some holiday keywords this time of year, right? And also make some holiday campaigns. So if you are like a cookware product or something like that, make some Thanksgiving campaigns, right? Same kind of deal for Christmas, right? Make some holiday campaigns, set the end dates to, right after those respective holidays, that kind of thing. Be strategic about who you're going after, for what occasions you're going after. Um, and I think you'll see that you're able to survive. And also, be strategic here with promos, discounts. What does your margin look like, right? Um, we do kind of see margin. I don't want to say suffer the most during Q4, but obviously, since cost per clicks are higher, there's more competition just in general. It does kind of eat into more of your margin than maybe it would Q1 through Q3. But with that said, you know, sales are ideally supposed to make up for that, being that there is so much traffic. So my advice is don't get discouraged. Product is not seasonal. Product is in sports category. If you want to drop an ASIN, be my guest. Don't be shy. Um, Sports category, think gifting, right? Who are you going after? Are you going after like, young men in their 20s to 30s? Are they shown in your listings, right? Do you have lifestyle images showing your target demographic, right? Do you have, you know, gifts for men, sporty gifts for men, stuff like that, depending on the size of it, maybe stocking stuff for keywords, you know, presents, etc. You're going to want to have a backup to upload, obviously, after the holidays to revert your listings back to what they were. But, Halloween, anytime after Halloween, people start getting kind of into the holiday mode. It's kind of a joke in America that like right after Halloween, like everybody plays like "All I Want for Christmas Is You," like everybody's like in Christmas mode or like Thanksgiving mode. So I'd say November is probably a great time to start if you haven't already. We're already telling people to get like lots of inventory in ahead of Black Friday. So I don't think you'll ever be like too prepared. So that's kind of my advice there. So keep going strong. Okay. Next, is making a single keyword phrase / broad campaign a good idea? I would say yes, but depending, right? So I know always as like a best practice, we say, oh, no more than 10 keywords per campaign. Don't mix match types. So with that said, have a broad and have a phrase separately so you can monitor things and in like a controlled way, right? But with that said, you don't have a whole lot of control, unfortunately, for how Amazon decides to spend your money on, in your budget. You're right. Like you can't tell it, oh, Amazon, please allocate, 10% of the clicks and views to, this keyword, and then another 20% to this keyword. It just kind of does what it wants. Um, Especially just based off of like search volume or traction clicks, it will kind of we see it sometimes focus on only like two or three targets within a campaign, right? So at that point, we need to resegment and have a moment to kind of be like, okay, well, these, the rest of these targets, they might genuinely be really good, right? Like they might result in some kind of sales traction and some new opportunities, but they're not getting enough of the budget to really shine on their own and really thrive in a way that kind of makes sense. So sometimes we do set up single keyword phrase and broad campaigns, even single or one long tail exact match target right within one campaign. If we have evidence that suggests that this term gets a lot of clicks, gets a lot of impressions, and it eats up um, majority of the budget when it's paired with other keywords. So that would be a really appropriate situation to be doing that. Okay. From Umar, which category is best to sell? So I think this is kind of framed as a, what's not a competitive niche on Amazon, right? And a few years ago, I might be able to tell you like home and garden or, you know, I don't know. Definitely not supplements, definitely not cosmetics. There really, truthfully, is not one clear-cut category that's, best to sell in, that's super cheap to sell in, super easy. Amazon's a much more competitive space, I think, than it's ever been. Everybody kind of got the memo to start selling on Amazon. And not that it's, really easy, but I think that it's still framed as being kind of easy. And we sometimes get sellers that come in brand new to Amazon and they forget to build, loss into their budget. Launching on Amazon or even just selling on Amazon in general, like the first few months, you're probably not going to be profitable. And that's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. And it's not something I ever like to tell clients, but you do have to be honest on some level and say, hey, there's really no, one shot category that is just gonna be effortless, seamless. There you go, sales up the wazoo, like you're rich, set it, forget it. Like that's just not the nature of the beast. I don't know if it ever was, but it's definitely not now. So what category interests you? I think is the better question. What are you passionate about? What do you know your stuff on? Right. A lot of the products that we see do really well, are niche, but there's usually one really defining feature that they have identified as missing from the rest of the products out there. So when I ask them in onboarding calls, okay, what makes your product different from all of the rest of the bracelets that we see or of the like soil enhancement or what makes you different, right? And if you can't answer that, that's your first problem. I think if you're just trying to enter Amazon as just another run of the mill product, I think you're going to have a really, really hard time doing well here now. Whereas if you started a few years ago, maybe not. Um, but the best time to start selling on Amazon is yesterday, as we like to say. So hopefully that helps answer your question a little bit. I know I went on a little bit of a tangent, but I do get this question a lot, even in just like a client perspective. Like, if my product isn't doing good here, then what kind of product can I come up with that would do well? And I would just say, what's missing? If you are really passionate about like hair growth supplements or something like that, what is one, ingredient or one like feature that is missing from all of the other ones? You can scroll for miles, right, and see a bunch of different ones, but if there's nothing really making you stand out, um you know or why someone should pick you, it's going to be really tough. It's going to be really tough. With that said, I do want to do a little bit of a segue into CTR. Um, so I will just go in here real quick. So to help differentiate your product a little bit, as we kind of talked about the scroll and breaking that, we are still offering the main image hack upgrades. So $100 per main image, photo editing and compositing. Deliverables include final main image and all raw and edited files used. So you can use the image wherever you want to. It's yours once we deliver it. So if you're interested, it's going to be myamazonguide.com/main image CTR upgrade. We've had some really great success with this. Honestly, we've even had some people who order main images who become clients with us. Um, you know, including packaging, features, the keyword for what this product is. If it's not immediately obvious, like what is this product for? Oh, it's for cooking and baking, right? Oh, just another journal, whatever, who cares? More zoomed in, okay, it tells you who this journal is for. It tells you, what it is, shows you a little swatch. We've seen a lot of great success with this. Instead of, just filling space to fill space. And I had a coaching call kind of on the same topic a few days ago, where, just they had stuff in the image just for the sake of having stuff in the main image. It didn't really make sense to, where instead, you could be affixing some kind of box or packaging, even if it's not 100%, what that is. Like this product doesn't need to come in this box, and it's, I don't know if I've ever seen any review that really complains about the packaging not being 1,000% the same. Product, sure. Product packaging, if it doesn't look the same, that's an issue. But as far as what it comes in, not a huge deal, right? And then just like outlining like ingredients and that kind of thing, like you'd be surprised how far even just like a little tag can go. Like, is it really adding value for people to see like a razor or, skincare wand or something like that from this angle? Probably not. It doesn't say anything to me. If I'm just scrolling, and I see like this, I'm like, oh, that's interesting, right? Or there's a pop out kind of board. It catches your eye. So, with that said, a lot of that is about, category you choose is about the product itself. You can't have a bad product and think that the main image or PPC will kind of fix all of your problems, right? That's not really realistic. Um, but with that said, it's a little marketing hack, being that Amazon is so hard to sell on. So hopefully that's helpful. I think we can ditch the banner. Thank you so much. But yeah, let's get back into the questions. I see that there's a few more. Well explained. Thank you. My add to cart rate seems good, 25% from clicks, but my purchase rate seems low, 2% from clicks. Was wondering how to increase the conversion from add to cart to purchase. This is a great question. So what Harsh is referring to in this question is going to be the search query performance report. And that is one of my favorite brand analytics ever. So let's pull up Stevens just to get an idea here for kind of what that looks like. And I will share my screen again. Okay, so here we have search query performance report. And what Harsh is referring to is the add to cart, so cart ads portion of the funnel here, and then the purchase funnel, right? So he's saying that, for a certain keyword, the cart ad rate is pretty good, right? It's 19.5% for the for Sage in this case, right? But the purchase rate tends to drop. So if you look at Stevens, his purchase rate also drops. It's at about 8.77% versus the cart ad rate. So my advice here, there's obviously something, dissuading somebody from actually going through and making the purchase, right? Which is why we're seeing this drop off. So I don't think it's a relevancy thing or um, anything to do with like bullets or I want to say maybe images, maybe if you're like missing any lifestyle images, there's some doubt, right? There's something that's planting a seed of doubt in somebody's mind when they're adding to cart, but not actually purchasing. A lot of that, I think, is price at that point. Once you have something in your cart, you're looking at the app and you're trying to figure out, okay, oh, maybe I get prime free shipping and whatever, but oh, taxes to my state, New Jersey, it's 7%, no matter what, plus this, plus that. It can get a little bit more over the threshold that maybe somebody is willing to pay for that particular Amazon purchase. So what I would recommend here, um, running some kind of promotion but in a more strategic kind of way. So if we go into here, we have brand tailored promotions. This is something, if you haven't tried this yet, I can't recommend this enough. We've seen a lot of really great success with brand tailored promotions, and you can go after very, very specific audiences. So in Harsh's case, he would want to go after brand cart abandoners. You can create a brand tailored promotion. We would do it for Age of Sage, and it shows you these audience segments, which do change over time. So, 45,000 brand cart abandoners, which is something that we're running right now. And all you have to do is give a little discount, so minimum 10%, maximum 50%. And you can run these for months out at a time. So Amazon's not even charging you to be able to run these at this point, which is huge. And then budget really only refers to how much you're actually losing as a result of the discount. So if you're selling, a $100 product, you give a 10% discount, you would be losing $10 in that case, and that would be allocated towards this budget number. So it doesn't actually cost you anything to run this. And only people who are part of this audience, so this 45,000 person audience, would actually even be able to see the brand tailored promotion. So it wouldn't be, given to every single person. It would really just go after these specific audiences. So like brand cart abandoners. So that's one way to go about that. Other way, kind of like what I was saying, is to make sure that you are being representative of your target demographics and stuff like that. If somebody is kind of back and forth about whether they want to purchase or not. It's going to come a lot down to price, like I said, but also, is this product for me? Is this product, or if they're gifting, right? Is this product for my friend? Is this something that they would actually like? And is this something that is for them specifically? And if your target audience, does not feel like a product is for them, they might not purchase, so you want to make sure you're looking at your demographic data. So that's also a brand analytic. So if we kind of go back here and look at demographic data, you can see so it's under consumer behavior analytics and demographics. If we look at this, you can do it weekly, monthly, quarterly. You can see a lot of, who is your demographic, right? Who is the majority that is buying your product? And this might shift a little bit in Q4. You won't be able to actually get that information until Q1, until about January. But you can see in here, we've got a nice kind of breadth of people from ages 25 to even 54. So I'd go a step further and I'd kind of look, okay, what does income level look like, right? If you are trying to tell me that your target audience is 18 to 24-year-olds and you're priced at, $300 or something like that, chances are that demographic data is not going to line up with their income levels and that kind of thing too, right? So that's something you want to take into consideration with price, but also just like with what your listing looks like, and trying to convince people that this is something, this is a product that is for them. So majority of Age of Sages audience is female. Um, Females who are married. So that doesn't super surprise me because we sell lots of soaps and good stuff like that. But if married females, so married women in you know their 30s and 40s weren't represented in our listings themselves, I would say, okay, this is a problem, and it can actually contribute to some drop off that we're seeing in SQP and that kind of thing. So hopefully that helps you out, and that clears some things up and gives you some strategy for how you can help some of that drop off. Okay, let's go to the next one. Let's go to this one. Goes along with the CTR. So if I add fruit around the base of a juice product, this is allowed on the main image and not against terms of service. Yep, yep. So I was watching one of John's videos. I think he did it on LinkedIn. John Aspinall, for those of you that don't follow him, LinkedIn influencer, 10K followers. He's really great. He makes some really good content. But he actually pulled up Amazon's terms of service, and there's verbiage in there that says should not, but not cannot, right? And there's a big difference. Just because a main image maybe should not have other rendered kind of images within it, doesn't mean that it cannot have those. And ultimately, you have to think about it this way: if your competitors are doing it, you should probably be doing it too, right? You can't compete. Amazon cannot, make it impossible for you to compete with other people who are doing the same thing, right? So even if we were just to say like fruit juice, right, and we were just to look it up on Amazon. So let's pull up my screen again. So I mean, you have Hawaiian Punch here doing the packaging kind of hack. Let's see, more packaging. Let's try something else. I don't know. Juice powder, something like supplement related, right? This is a good example. So see how it has like the fruit around it, and it doesn't necessarily look fake, right? But it does kind of give you an idea of like, okay, what is this made of? What does this look like? For products that have like texture, so like powders and stuff like that, I always like to kind of show a swatch. Or just kind of like, what does that texture look like when somebody's buying your product? And you ever get something in the mail and you open it and you're like, oh, because you didn't think that it would like look that way, or like maybe smell that way, or things that are hard to kind of communicate on a listing. I think kind of going into this can really be helpful, and it's not allowed. The best way to kind of do this testing, in my experience, is to do an experiment, so like a main image A/B test. Amazon will tell you immediately They will reject that A/B test if that main image is not something that is going to be Amazon compliant. And I'd rather do that than maybe upload something to the listing that's going to be prohibited and just kind of result in a main image suppression, so like a listing yank. But with that said, as long as you have the old main image backed up, um, you're able to re-upload that and be back live in about 10 minutes, give or take. So that's the safe way to go about it if you're eligible for A/B testing. And that's a great way to do it without risking any yanks or anything like that. With that said, if you are adding more things into your main image, make sure you still have a white border, right? Even if that border is just like, a few pixels, it really can make all the difference for what the algorithm or what the bots immediately are catching. Um, and make sure nothing looks like super fake. Like, don't put like a whole sentence on a piece of packaging and have it look like I went in there and like MS Paint and like inserted that in a text box, right? Make it look legit. Take some time with it. um, and if you'd like, you can order one from us for $100. So $100, I think, goes a lot quicker in your advertising than it does for something like a main image, where you'll reap the benefits of having that new main image for months and months to come. So, kind of my 2 cents there. Let's go back to Dauda. Okay. Hi, so are you recommending a one campaign containing one ad group with less than 20 keywords as phrase match, one ad group with less than 20 keywords as exact match, and an ad group of less than 20 keywords as broad? Um, so I am not a huge proponent of ad groups. I think they're kind of hard to see visually. So I understand, like, if you have, one campaign and if it's easier for you to kind of keep track, you have, okay, broad, phrase, exact within that one campaign, 3 different ad groups, right? Um, we like to get even more granular than that and keep everyone to their own campaign. So I'm talking one campaign, um, 10 or less keywords. So that would be way we kind of name these too for naming conventions. I can kind of show you. And this is just going to make your life just so much easier. So let's look at this as an example. So the way we have it set up is we have it by the type of campaign it is, right? So SP, sponsored product, or SB, sponsored brands. You can also see this in type. The kind of the type of campaign it is. So this is like a keyword campaign. This is, a video. A lot of the time we'll have like competitors, so that'll be comp. And then kind of the purpose. So Halloween gifts. So you kind of know what we're kind of targeting within those campaigns. The type, so this is a broad campaign. There's some in here, looks like he's got a lot of broad going on. But again, like, this is one that's sourced from SQP specifically, so that's in the naming convention. And yeah, I'm sure we've got some phrase, exact, all that good stuff in here too. I'm just seeing a lot of broad right now. But if we go into one of these, and it says the ASIN as well, right? So there's really no confusion as far as, what this, what this campaign is for. And you should be creating these with intention. The ad group, notice there's just one in here. If we go into it, what products we're going after. So these are all of the Halloween tumblers that we've got up here. Age of Sage for Halloween. So we'll probably see a lot of these kind of turned off and that kind of thing beyond today. Then Halloween gifts, there's only 5 in here, and they're all broad match. So, I think 10, 20 like would be way, way, way too much. And it would be very difficult to keep track of, ACOS as a whole. So think about it like this, right? Right now, the ACOS is 81%. That's very easy to see. It's very easy to visualize, even from like way out here, right? If I'm just looking on a very zoomed out view at all of my campaigns. Think about how easily a bleeder could get lost if you have 20 in here, right? Um, you might never know, or you might never even think to check. If you have, you know, 4 times the amount of keywords in here, and 5 of them are running with, a bunch of clicks, no sales, at really high ACOS, but then you have, maybe 1 or 2 that are running at like a 5% ACOS or something like that, because ACOS is an average. And, you know, from an outside view, it's averaging um, all of your ad groups together, right? So maybe your exact match is absolutely doing fantastic and that's killing it. But your phrase and broad are tanking, like their ROASs are way under a 1.0, right? You might never actually know that. Um, I mean, you might if you're always kind of in there and you're, consistently making changes and consistently auditing, but for a lot of sellers, that's not the reality. And that's why a lot of people do hire MAG or any kind of agency to handle ads, because the more campaigns you have, like the more you've got going on, the harder it is to get in the really, nitty gritty of everything that is going on, right? To manage, what do we have right now? Let's see. How many campaigns? To manage over 1,000 campaigns, right? Can you imagine stuffing multiple ad groups into every single one of these, and then going into each one and trying to figure out where the bleed is? Segmenting like this makes it infinitely easier to actually visualize where that's happening, and where you should be keeping an eye out. So hopefully that's helpful. And I know there was a second part to your question. So with ad group, 1 gold cross necklace, broad ad group, cross necklace, and phrase, most performing keyword, high search volume. So how would you set those up? So I would do whatever your ASIN is, so gold cross necklace, right, for that one. And I would say, okay, broad, depending on where you're getting those key terms from, whether that's like H10 or SQP, wherever you're sourcing that from. I would do a separate campaign. So I'd do another one and I'd do the same thing, but make that phrase. I would do another campaign and do similar thing, gold cross necklace, ASIN, whatever, an exact. And I would watch those, all 3 of them. And you can use the same keywords in different match types. It's something that is kind of generally pretty accepted, right? Um, Generally speaking, right? A keyword is going to perform a lot different in exact, and maybe be a lot more expensive in exact than it would be in phrase or broad. We also do the broad match modifier as well. So that's something you could probably set up with broad, or you could even set it up independently of broad, since it does behave a little bit differently. Um, let me see. But yeah, I don't surmise that they would compete with one another, as long as you're being strategic, like with what words you're using. So for phrase and broad, I think it gets, maybe a little bit closer, but it's still not the same, right? Because phrase, you have to have, especially if it's like a 2-word phrase, it has to be in that order, and there can be anything in front of it or behind it, right? Broad match modifier is maybe what I would lean more towards, and having one of those in a phrase campaign running, just because you have to have all of those words in that order. Um, so it's going to behave a little bit differently, if that makes sense. But I would move away from ad groups. I think they can get really messy really quickly. I've really only seen them be successful a handful of times, to the point where like one isn't majorly like swaying the ACOS one way or the other, where the rest of them are bleeding and they're getting missed. Hopefully that's helpful. Okay. We've got about 10 minutes left, so that's kind of crazy. I can talk to myself for 10 minutes. Well, or for an hour. So I appreciate all the questions. I really do. I think this podcast has come a really long way in a few months. So I'm glad you all join me every week. It feels like a staff meeting. It feels like I hold like a little internal staff meeting every Tuesday when I don't have a guest in my office on YouTube live. Okay. From Gregor, hi Marissa, nice to see you. Is it okay to have the same keywords in broad and exact match separate campaigns? Yep, it totally is. They're going to behave differently, right? So exact match might be less work, right? Because you're not doing negations in an exact match scenario, right? There's no need to do that. Where in broad, you would need to do some negating. Um, but exact is typically more expensive. Um, Broad is typically cheaper, right? And broad can also open you up to a whole horizon of more opportunities that you'd be really surprised sometimes to see based on how people's search behavior kind of changes over time. So I think both have their own you know um, own differences and perform differently. And a lot of people assume that, oh, an exact will always perform better. And a lot of the time, it's just that's not true. And we see a lot of great success. Some of our lowest ACOS campaigns are in broad and phrase because they're cheap. So they don't eat all of our margin up all the time. And they open us up to kind of like new possibilities and, for what we're showing up for. So definitely, definitely okay to do and encouraged to do. Okay. And from backup Terry, what are the top things you would look at when assessing an account? So I'm assuming like doing like an ad audit. So we can run through it real quick. If I were to do a fake one on Age of Sage, just drink my coffee. I'm talking. Coffee in mason jars. It just tastes different. It just tastes better. I can't explain it, but it just does something for me. Okay. Let's look. So if I were to look at Age of Sage, and we have our own advertising team that handles Age of Sage, but I'm not usually in this account. But first thing I would do is I would look at last 30 days. So that way we're not too zoomed in. We have a bunch of clients that will look on it like every single day of the week and give me this breakdown. And I'm like, that is so great. But if we zoom out a little bit, you might be surprised to see some successes. And then I like to sort it one of two ways. So it's already sorted by spend, which I think is important, being that ACOS is really is just kind of a ratio here. I also like to sort this by ROAS a lot of the time, so you can customize your columns here and add in ROAS. You can also add in new to brand, everything like that, viewable impressions if that's important to you, etc. So a lot of these look pretty good. This one's a little concerning, so we can kind of run through it. This is the one that spends the most in a 30-day period. ROAS is a 2.44, which isn't maybe fantastic, but I would probably right-click. I always like to right-click so I can still edit everything from this area, and if I need to adjust the budget or anything like that, I can still do so from over here. And then I would go in and I would investigate. So I would say, okay, so what are we, targeting on? I think we were just in this one. So a lot of these are ineligible or there's other kind of issues there. I would probably turn off this one, this target Halloween decor. I don't know if this is super relevant to Halloween tumblers. Like, is the same person buying a Halloween wreath also buying a Halloween tumbler? I that would be a hard case to make for me, right? So I would probably pause this. It's 24 clicks, not like huge spend, but if you're really trying to get your ACOS and tacos down, a lot of these little blips like this can really add up. You'd be really surprised. And then, maybe after doing that, I'd move on and I'd say, okay, what's going on with this one, right? Um, it's got, over 2,000 clicks. Like, what's going on here, right? And I'd kind of go through it and I'd say, okay, this is for the smudge sticks, fantastic. I like to look at this just to make sure it's not like a relevancy issue. So sometimes when you're um, advertising on multiple products, sometimes even just like color variations, like will not go over well for certain keywords. People will just say, "Oh, the green one isn't relevant," or "I don't want the green one," or "I'm just going to focus solely on like the blue one," or something like that. Um, so look here for relevancy. You'll see it sometimes too for sizes, especially based on like what you're targeting. Like large, if you're targeting a bunch of small ones in one large product, that's probably not going to be super relevant. It's probably going to hurt your overall campaign. So you want to make sure you're segmenting that way as well. And this one, we can filter by active status. Wherever that, all but archive, no. Active status enables, 64 is a lot. That brings us to 12. That looks a little bit better. And I would look here. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier in the podcast, where some of these targets are just not performing the way they should be. Number one, because differing match types, which I'm not a super fan of, wouldn't recommend doing that. But number two, look at the impressions on some of these. So sage as a phrase has over, 180,000 impressions, and we're still running a 43% ACOS. That would tell me, even though 96 cents isn't a huge bid, and it would probably tell me that we could even, go down to like, zero point 0.6 or 0.70, to be honest with you. But a lot of these down here are not even really gaining impressions at all because the budget is all wrapped up in these keywords over here. So I would actually take these out of this campaign and I would resegment them in a different exact match campaign or a different phrase campaign because they're not really being given the opportunity to thrive here. Like there probably is some decent search volume on these words, but because they're just kind of, chilling there and all of these are getting all of the spend, this one in particular getting the most of it, this would be a great example going back to the one question we had for when it would be appropriate. This one is making a single keyword phrase / broad campaign a good idea. I would make one specifically just for this. So I would turn off everything else maybe, depending on, how everything else is doing, obviously, because there's history here. But that would be a great example of something that would do well in a single keyword campaign. So hopefully that's helpful. So those are some things that I look for. Hopefully that's helpful for all of you guys. Let me know, on LinkedIn or wherever you prefer. This was fun. I gotta do a little bit of a wrap up, but thank you so much for joining me this Halloween for our PPC Tuesday AMA. As a reminder here, so we're still doing the main image CTR hacks that we talked about earlier in the podcast. I also do coaching calls, which are a lot of fun, honestly. I get to talk to a lot of different sellers about a whole lot of different things. So we also have, Tom, Fran, Faith, Kristen Lash, Joe, John, myself, and Steven. You can email him a question for a little bit less if you want Steven to answer in particular. So we all kind of specialize in different things. Really fun. Help to kind of break up my day a little bit and think about things in a new way. So I really like doing these. We're also hiring, so always hiring. We never stop hiring. So join our team, myamazonguy.com/jobs. Always, hiring for internships, really looking for more brand managers as we get into the holiday season, PPC interns. This is great. If you, really don't have any experience and you're just kind of coming into the Amazon scene, this is a fantastic way to learn and grow. I started as an intern here at MAG, only last year. Um, and we promote really quickly based on competency and merit and everything like that. But a lot of great opportunities here. And then we also have MAG School. So we have the seller courses. So if you have more questions or even just want to get a more basic understanding of PPC, we also have a PPC course. So that's great. It covers all of the basics without being too in the weeds. So you won't get too confused or anything just starting out. So all of those courses are available there. But yeah, and we also have our SOP libraries you can also purchase for a limited time or forever. So lots of good stuff going on here at MAG. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for joining me. It was a lot of fun. I'll see you guys next week. And I'll see ya. Bye, guys.